24 ways to find a dental practice for sale. I don't want to hear anyone say, I can't find a dental practice for sale in my area until you have tried at least 10 of the items on this list. Today, we're going to look at 24 different ways to find dental practices for sale. Then we're going to rank them all the way from F tier up to S tier based upon examples that I've seen in real life. First on the list, accountants. I spoke to a dentist who found a practice because he spoke to an accountant who knew about a dentist that was retiring. This can happen. It's not a very common way that people find practices, but it's definitely one worth looking into. If you can find an accountant that sees a lot of dentists and has a lot of clients who are dentists, it's worth talking to that accountant to say, hey, I'm actually interested in buying a practice. If you want to run that by some of your clients, maybe you can get us in touch. So talking to accountants can be a really good option. I've just only seen it happen one time, so I'm going to put it as D tier. Next on the list, associate jobs. You need to be very careful about taking an associate job under the assumption that you're later going to be able to buy that practice. I would absolutely not consider this a viable option. Yes, I do know dentists where this has worked out. In fact, one of the practices in my town recently sold to a dentist who was working as an associate for the owner. So this definitely happens. However, for every one dentist this works out for, I know like 10 to 20 dentists where this miserably failed. It is extremely common for dentists to say that I'm going to be retiring in the next few years if you come work for me, but then this dentist might end up working for another 10, 15, 20 years. You do not have that kind of time to wait to become an owner. Just because a dentist says he's retiring does not mean he's going to be retiring. I know a dentist who didn't retire until he was 95 years old. Also, just the idea, you're going to come in and you're going to produce at this practice, which means you're going to raise the value of this practice, and then you're going to buy the practice at an inflated price because your production pushed the price of the practice up. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I would not do this. Stay away from it. This is going to be F tier. Next is practice brokers. Practice brokers are the way that the majority of people buy dental practices. I talk a lot about practice brokers because they are the primary way that people find dental practices for sale. Most dentists who are selling their practice do not have a lot of experience with selling practices before. It's probably their first time doing it. So what they do is they hire a practice broker because they know that this practice broker has experience. Now, they generally are going to pay this practice broker somewhere between 8 and 10% of the sale price, and practices often sell for $1 million plus. So each practice broker is going to be making something like $80,000 to $100,000 on a single sale. So you need to be very careful dealing with these practice brokers because they are incentivized to try to make this sale go through, and they're incentivized to have it sell at the highest price possible. Anytime a practice broker gives you a piece of advice, take what they're saying with a grain of salt, realizing that they are salesmen and they're trying to sell you a product. This is why I always recommend that you go into these types of negotiations with someone on your side who's done this before. Don't go up against a practice broker by yourself when they've done hundreds of these transactions and this is your first time, because they will run you over. But with that being said, you have to work with practice brokers because the majority of practices are going to go through practice brokers. Go to Google and type in practice brokers and then insert your city and state. Go through to every single website and send an email. Hey, my name is Chris. I'm looking to buy a practice in this city. You need to reach out to every broker, not just one, because if you reach out to just a single broker, that broker is going to show you the practices that he or she has for sale, but he or she is not going to show you all the practices that are for sale with the other brokers. So you need to reach out to every single broker, and then you want to continually be emailing these brokers every 2 to 3 weeks saying, hey, has anything else come to market? Has anything else come to market? Because when something does come to market, you want to be the first person to know about it. You want to be on their speed dial so that they call you, they email you, they text you right away saying, hey, this practice has come to market, and if you're interested, I'll send you the documents. You say yes, you look at the documents. If you're working with me, you send them to me. I'll take a look at them right away because I know that these type of transactions have to go fast. They have to go fast because someone else might come in and swoop in and buy it. So you need to see, hey, is this something that I want to buy right away, and then be ready to make an offer, because the best practices are going to sell fast. Some of the best practices I've seen have sold literally within 24 hours of the posting being listed. So you need to be prepared and ready and be in contact with as many brokers as possible. All right, practice brokers are going to be S tier because that's how the majority of practices are sold. You need to focus first on reaching out to practice brokers. All right, next on the list is church. Churches are great because it's one of the last few areas in our society where younger people and older people come together and communicate with each other. If you're not careful, you can get locked into a bubble where all of your friends and all the people you know are the same age as you. But when you go to a church, you're going to be interacting with people of all different age groups, and that's a great way to get to know some people who are, retirement age. Maybe you'll meet an actual dentist at church who's going to be retiring, or maybe you meet a friend who knows a dentist that's that age. It's a great place to make connections. Church is going to be A tier. Next is cold calling. This is just calling up dental practices and saying, hey, I'm interested in buying a practice. Generally, when you call a dental office, you're not going to be speaking to the dentist. The office manager or the receptionist are going to be answering the phones. And so when you try to call and talk to, you are going to make some dentists really unhappy if you call and talk to their office manager about selling the practice. Dentists like to be very secretive about selling their practice. They don't want their patients, they don't want their staff to know about it until the transaction is basically settled. Be careful about just calling practices directly and talking to office managers about this type of thing, because you can get on the bad side of a dentist very quickly. I would not recommend cold calling offices. So this is going to be F tier. Next is dental conferences. Dental conferences are actually a decent way to meet other dentists, because if you go to the right conference, you're going to have the opportunity to meet a lot of dentists that you otherwise wouldn't be able to meet. This can be a great way to make connections and meet other dentists and find practices for sale. The only downside with conferences is that generally people from lots of different areas are going to be coming to this conference, and you're usually trying to look at a specific area. So yeah, you might find a dentist who's interested in selling, but he might be in a completely different state than where you want to live. So overall, dental conferences can be a great place, especially if you don't have a specific area that you're trying to live in right now. So I'm going to put conferences as B tier. Dental associations. Okay, dental associations actually sometimes have pretty decent networking opportunities with other dentists. You can join national groups like the ADA. You can join your state-specific group, and even some counties and cities have their own smaller dental societies. Join these groups and get on the email list, and you might hear about something. It's a good way to meet people. So I'm going to put this as B tier. Dental school alumni events. Dental school alumni events can actually be a pretty great place to find older dentists. Generally, the type of dentist that's going to be going to one of these alumni events is a dentist who's older and has saved up some money and is donating towards the school. The same type of dentist who is probably getting near retirement. Also, if you're going to a dental school, it's likely going to be, at least in the state, but maybe in the city that you want to live in. So it's going to be a little bit more geographically in the area you're looking at. So yeah, dental school alumni events, pretty good place. I'm going to put that as an A tier. Next is emailing dentists. Hands down, sending an email is much better than making a call, because it's more likely that the dentist is going to see this email, but it's still fairly likely that this email is going to be seen by the front office. The advantage with email is that they're so easy to send. You can sit down in a couple hours, write out an email, and find all the different emails in the area you're looking at and send it out. It's not going to take you much time. It's pretty low chance that you're going to get a response to your email, just because dentists get so many emails, especially the older dentists who are nearing retirement. They're probably not checking their email every day. If they are, they're probably just going to skip over your email, but it's so easy to do. It doesn't hurt. I'm going to put it as C tier. Next on the list is study clubs. If you're trying to buy a practice in a specific area and you know about a dental study club for that area, join the study club. Dental study clubs are some of the best ways to get in contact with other dentists in your area and then see them on a recurring basis and build relationships with these dentists. I know of multiple transactions that have taken place because of relationships that were built at these dental study clubs. So study clubs we're going to put as an S tier. If you can find a dental study club in the area that you want to buy a practice, you should join it and you should attend every meeting. Next is family. So this is, you have a dad, a mom who's a dentist, and they're retiring and they're going to pass the practice along to you. I would be very careful with this one. Sure, I do know a few dentists who this has worked out for them. They were able to, buy or inherit the practice from their parent. I hear about this all the time from other dentists who they say, yeah, I got out of school and I went and worked for my dad and I was going to be taking over his practice, but he's not ready to retire yet. And I just don't think it's working out, because when I show up, all the staff think of me as a little kid. Half of the patients knew me when I was a 12-year-old. I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a parent that's about to retire, and you might get lucky, most dentists are going to graduate when they're 25 years old, and maybe their parents were 25 years old when they were born. So they're graduating and their parent is only 50 years old. They're not ready to retire yet. They got another 15 years. Do you really want to work for your parent for 15, 20 years, maybe more before they retire? If you're in a situation where this just happens to work out, great. But the vast majority of these cases end up not working out. It's also going to get really uncomfortable when you're trying to decide on what the purchase price of this practice is. Because, I mean, this is your dad, this is your mom. You want to make sure that they're fairly compensated. But at the same time, do you really want to overpay? It's a difficult situation. And unless you're in a very unique situation, I would just not even count on this working out. Now, that doesn't mean it hurts to have a parent who's a dentist, because they might have connections and you're going to have a lot of knowledge and skill set that you've learned just from seeing your dad or mom do this throughout the years. So you're going to be way better prepared than the average dentist was. But I still would be very hesitant about planning on taking over your parents' practice. So I'm going to give this a D tier rating. Next on the list, supply reps. Yeah, supply reps are great. They know a lot of dentists, especially the older dentists are the ones that are more likely to be using supply reps. Some of the younger dentists are probably migrating over to using more websites and more internet-based stuff, but especially the older dentists, the ones nearing retirement, high chance that they're using a supply rep, and the supply reps are going to know who's fixing to retire, and they're incentivized to try to get someone to buy that practice from the retiring dentist, because they're hoping that you will continue to use them. And they think, well, if they make the connection and connect you to this dentist, there's a much higher probability that you're going to end up using them for their services. So reach out to every supply rep, Henry Schein, Patterson, whoever in your area, and make sure that you're on their number one call list, that if a practice is coming for sale or they know of a dentist who's nearing retirement, that they'll reach out to you and let you know about it. So supply reps, S tier. Next on the list, golfing, country clubs. A lot of business deals actually take place at golf clubs and country clubs. There's a reason people pay money to join these country clubs, and it's not just to play golf, even though, yeah, they're there because they want to play golf, but it's also because it's a great place to build connections and relationships with people. It can be expensive to join some of these country clubs, so I'm not sure if it's worth it, but if you happen to be a golfer and you are able to come across other dentists out while you're golfing, that can be a great place to build relationships and connections and potentially find a practice for sale. So I'm going to put this as a B tier. Next is Google / online. Most practices, by the time they make it online, they're going to be so cherry picked that all the good practices are gone. There is a website, Provide has a site that you can search dental practices for sale. It ends up connecting you with practice brokers. So really, if you're already reaching out to the practice brokers, you don't need this website. But it's nice to have. It's a good place to kind of get an idea of what could be for sale in certain areas. And it's super easy to just Google and look and see if you see anything and look. So because it's so easy and it's a great place, most people are going to start there. I'm going to give it a C tier, but just know that most people don't end up buying practices directly from online. They go online, they find out about a practice broker, and the practice broker tells them about other practices for sale, then they find one. So it's a good place to get started. It's probably not how you're going to find your practice. All right, next one is hair salon. Yeah, I don't know anyone who's bought a practice because they met someone at a hair salon, but hey, it could work. The reason I put this is because I had an aunt who was at a hair salon, and she knew I was wanting to buy a dental practice, and she actually met a practice broker that was at the hair salon, and she gave my contact information to him, and she got his card, and I reached out to him, and that was a practice broker that I was able to use. I didn't end up buying a practice through this practice broker. He wasn't that great, but I thought it was funny, so I put it on this list. But hey, what I really am trying to say is just make sure everyone knows that you're looking to buy a practice, because you never know where you're going to find someone. So hair salon, I'm giving it F tier because I've never seen it work, but hey, it's on your list. Just make sure everyone knows you want to buy a practice. Dental journals, and this can include magazines and publications. Sometimes you'll see in the classified section toward the back that there's a listing for practice that's for sale. You're probably not going to find one in the exact location that you want to live, so I wouldn't put it too high. If you're willing to live anywhere, you might find a practice that's on here. I've seen it happen, so I'm going to give it a C tier. Volunteering. Great way to meet other dentists, especially when you're working together with another dentist in a volunteer type setting. That's a great way to build relationships. The kind of dentists that are going to be volunteering are usually the nicer, kinder, the kind of people you want to work with. Try to get involved in dental community events. Not only is it great to give back to the community, but for selfish reasons, it's also a great way to meet other dentists that potentially are going to be selling a dental practice. So I'm going to give this A tier. Next is lawyers. You're going to need a lawyer when you buy a dental practice. That's just part of the process. However, lawyers typically have certain requirements for confidentiality. I think it's pretty unlikely that you're going to call up a lawyer and they're going to just go through all the information of their clients about how old this dentist might be retiring. Legal reasons, they're probably not supposed to be doing that. Maybe if you personally know a lawyer and he has some friends, but for the most part, lawyers, F tier. Direct mail. Surprisingly, direct mail, even today, can be effective at finding practices. Certainly, mail is better than direct calls, and it's probably better than email. You're looking for dentists who are wanting to retire, and generally, dentists who are nearing retirement age are probably a little bit more likely to care about physical mail than some younger people are. Dentists do get a lot of mail. Oftentimes, it's the office manager that's opening letters. Most of your letters are going to get ignored and thrown away. But the reason that mail can still be effective sometimes is that there are certain dentists that are not going to be going to volunteer events and they're not going to be involved in the local study clubs. Dentists that are by themselves and they don't really want to be involved with other people, they're probably not going to have that many relationships with other dentists in the area because they're more to themselves. And if you send them a letter, that might be your only way to reach this dentist. So sure, I would start with reaching out to practice brokers online, some of the easier things. But at some point, if you're really looking, spend an afternoon, write a nice letter, find the addresses of the dentist in the area that you want to live and just send it. Don't just send it to people nearing retirement age, send it to everyone because maybe someone's moving, maybe, you don't know the situation, just send it to everyone and see if you get any responses. So we're going to give mail a B tier. Next is online forums. You can find some online forums that are pretty good. And there's a chance that if you're posting, hey, I'm interested in buying a practice in this location, maybe someone will see your post and they'll reach out to you. It's so easy to make a post on a forum. Why not do it? However, I would say the response rate is probably going to be pretty low just because people from all over the United States and all over the world are going to be looking at that post. And if you have a very specific area that you want to live, it's a lower chance that someone in your area is going to see that post. But it's so easy to do. Why not do it? So let's give online forums a C. Next is other dentists. This one's obvious. You need to reach out to as many dentists as you know and as you can find in the area because dentists have other friends who are dentists and they might know a friend who's nearing retirement that they can refer you to. We already talked about study clubs and meeting on the golf course, etc., at church. But yeah, if you have other friends that are dentists, invite them for lunch. If you have the same lunchtime during work, invite them to meet you at a restaurant at lunch or whatever. Meet up with these other dentists, make friends with them, invite them to play tennis, go golfing, go on a run, go on a bike ride, whatever. You want to make sure that they know you want to buy and that you're on their mind when they're considering selling. So other dentists, A tier. Next is real estate agents. A lot of dentists who own their own practice also own the building. And so if they're thinking about selling their practice, it's a chance that they have also listed their building for sale. Or if a dentist is leasing the location, the real estate agent is actually going to be pretty incentivized to help you out because they're going to get a cut if you sign up for a lease through them. I know in my city, there is a real estate agent who knows all the dentists and is extremely connected. And he basically specializes on, medical, dental, veterinary practices. And he has a ton of relationships. If you can find someone like that, it's good to reach out to them and get on their list because they might have the connections to put you in touch with the right person. So I'm going to say real estate agents, that's a B tier. Social media, that's going to be kind of similar to the same things we were saying in online forums. However, you might have some dentists or other friends that are friending you on social media and they see your post. So, you want to let everyone know. So it's so easy to post on social media. Let's give that a C tier. And then last item on the list, this is something that I think is kind of a sleeper. A lot of people don't think about this, but it's specialists. The specialists in your area probably have a lot of connections with dentists. The other great thing is specialists are incentivized to help you because they know that if they help you find a practice, you're likely going to be friends with them for life and you're going to be referring them all sorts of patients. So I would reach out to all the specialists in your area, find the orthodontist, the endodontist, the periodontist. There's a pretty high probability that a specialist in your area is going to find out if a dentist is wanting to sell. And unlike other general dentists, you are not going to be in competition with the specialist. They actually want you in the area. They want to be your friend. They want you to refer them patients. So reach out to every specialist and ask them for advice. Ask them if they know anyone, see if they can make any connections. A specialist is absolutely absolutely a great way to find a practice. So we're going to put that as S tier. All right, so that's 24 different ways that you can find a dental practice for sale. If you come to me and say, hey, there are no dental practices for sale in my area, and you haven't even reached out to practice brokers, or you haven't even signed up for any of the local associations or joined any study clubs or sent out any letters, I'm going to be like, well, you clearly haven't even started looking. Go through this list, especially focus on the S tier, A tier, and B tier items, and just start doing one of these things per week, maybe 2 per week, and just keep doing things until eventually you are going to find a practice. Usually it takes at least 3 months. Sometimes it takes a year or 2 to find the right practice. So get started right away. Keep in mind that you're probably not going to buy the very first practice that you go to visit. You're probably going to want to look at 5, 10, 15, 20 different practices. At least you're going to be looking at the practice reports. You want to get used to the numbers. You want to start to get used to what are you looking for in a practice. Don't think you're just going to wake up one day, quit your associate job, and walk out and buy a practice. It takes time to find a practice, so you want to get started right away. It doesn't hurt to find out about practices before you're ready to buy. It's good experience. Don't tell the practice broker you're not ready to buy. Tell them you're ready to buy. Go and look at the practice, get all the experience, and then even if you choose not to buy then, the more options, the more connections you have, the better, so that when you are ready to buy, you're good to go. I bought my first practice 1 year out of school. It was, maybe 14, 15 months to be exact. It's going to take a little bit of time, but get started now. If you'd like any help or have any questions, make sure to reach out. You can find my email in the description. Good luck and get started on finding your dental practice for sale.